Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to talk about my 2006 Cadillac XLR-V. I've now owned this car for a little over a year now, so I'd like to give my current thoughts on the vehicle and kind of update you guys on my likes and dislikes. Now that I've owned it for some time, I've put about 2,000 miles on it, so I can go a little bit more into depth about what I think about this car. And I think that a video like this could be particularly helpful for those who are looking to purchase an XLR-V for themselves. So I've kind of gathered all of my thoughts into my notes here. I have it split between my dislikes and my likes of the Cadillac XLR-V, and some of these topics may be things that I covered during my review of the car, but I may go just into a little bit more depth on these, or maybe some of my opinions may have changed slightly in the time since I've actually owned this car when I first bought it. So we're going to start off first with our dislikes here. My first thing here is kind of more of a nitpick. It has to do with the interior storage of the XLR-V. There are a few things about it that have just kind of become annoying over time that I've noticed. Firstly, the center storage console is there. It's not very deep at all. You can really only fit very small things in there. You can fit like a sunglasses case and stuff like that, but it just is not deep in the least bit. Kind of makes it difficult to take stuff along with you, maybe with the top down. If you're gonna have something that blows out, you're not gonna be able to put it inside of the center console if it's too large. And also with the interior storage, I wish that there was a location behind the seats to store things. Other models like a Mercedes-Benz SL from this time actually had storage boxes behind the seats, or maybe just behind the passenger seat, but behind the XLR seats there is just nothing there, not even a net. I do wish that there was something there because there is a little bit of space there. I think it would have worked, but unfortunately, Cadillac did not put that storage there. And also, I have gotten pretty annoyed at the cup holders in this car. Unfortunately, they are just extremely small. I carry around this metal water bottle with me when I go to the gym or go to other places, and I cannot fit it into these cup holders. It's just a little bit too large, but in just about any other car I get into, it does fit. So it's always annoying when I grab it and I try and put it in the cup holders in this car, it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't fit. So that's a bit annoying. And the final thing to mention about the storage space of this car, I have found that the trunk is relatively small, especially when the top is down. Occasionally, I'll take this car to either the driving range or the golf course, and I'd like to put my bag in the trunk of the car while also having the top down, but unfortunately, there is just not nearly enough room to have the bag in there. Some modern cars today, such as the new C8 Corvette, it does have enough room back there to have the top down in the convertible and still put golf bags back there. And this is still kind of a nitpick because you can still put a golf bag back there when the top is up, but sometimes I just like to have the top down cruising to the golf course on those nice days. So the second thing on my list for my dislikes with the XLR-V is with the interior materials used in this car. This is something that's kind of bothered me a little bit more and more as I drive around the vehicle and spend more time inside of it. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of hard touch plastics. If you look at the dashboard at the top, it's all black, stitched leather supposedly, but it actually feels a lot more like molded or hard plastic. Does not feel very luxurious. There's also supposed to be metal on the interior of the XLR-V on the center console and a little bit on the doors. However, when you feel it, it just does not feel at all like metal. It feels a lot like plastic trying to be metal. It just does not look good. It also dents really easily. There are just little teeny tiny dents around some of the buttons on the interior. It just does not look or feel very good, especially for what was a $100,000 car back in the day. It's definitely not feeling like a $100,000 interior. However, that's not to say it's bad. The seats are still comfortable and soft, and a lot of the interior materials are good, like a microfiber suede on the interior, but it's just not really up to par to current standards with luxurious cars. Now on the inside, driving the XLR, I'd like to talk about the next thing that is my dislike about this car, and that has to deal with the sound that this vehicle produces. Now, I will say there's a lot to like about how this car sounds. Most of the time, it's not annoying, it's not burbling. However, my complaint about it is that it isn't necessarily as sporty as I think it probably should be. This is a supercharged engine, but most of the time, you can't even tell that it's supercharged. You really have to get kind of higher in the rev range to hear the exhaust and to get the supercharger sound, which is one of my favorite sounds out there. It just sounds really menacing. And what kind of bothers me about it is that most of the time, it just sounds a lot like a normal XLR. It really doesn't remind you that you're driving something really extra special or fast. When you get into modern Cadillac V cars like a newer CTS V, it'll actually sound a lot more aggressive than just a regular CTS. And then the last thing on my list of my dislikes for the XLR-V is that it is missing a lot of technology that I think should have been available at the time. And this actually may be my biggest dislike about the car. Firstly, it is missing some things that are just good for safety. For example, a rear camera would have been fantastic to have on this car. It does have backup sensors. However, when you're backing into a parking spot, or maybe you're backing by a tree or a bush, you just don't have the same confidence as you would have if you had a camera. And it also does not have front parking sensors on this car. I think that this car should have had that because occasionally I'll park it in a parking lot or by a curb, and I'm trying to look up and see how close I am, and I just can't see a thing. So having front sensors or even front cameras on this car would have been a very nice thing to have. The Cadillac DTS that I have, the 2008 that I've actually shown you guys on this channel, it has parking sensors on the front of the car as well, and it's hugely helpful. And there are also a few convenience features that I wish would have been offered on the XLR-V. The first one being either Bluetooth or having an aux connection to the car. Of course, some Cadillac XLR-Vs did have Bluetooth in, I believe, the 2009 model year, but they didn't make many 2009 XLRs, so it's really hard to find one with Bluetooth. I wish that it would have had it, but what's extremely annoying is that it does not have an aux connection for your devices. It really blows my mind that this car does not have an aux connection when many other GM vehicles at the time did, and it's a shame because it would be nice to have your phone connected to it in some way if you want to listen to music or directions. And I also wish that the XLR-V came with auto start. Unfortunately, no year of XLR came with this feature. I'm not sure if it's because the XLR came out in 2004, maybe just a little bit before auto start actually becoming a popular option on cars. However, some other GM vehicles from the time did have it, like the Suburban, the DTS, and it's kind of a shame that the XLR-V never got that feature. So those are my dislikes of the Cadillac XLR-V. Let's move on to my likes next. So the first thing on my list for the likes of the XLR-V is its rarity. Throughout the 2004 and 2009 model years when they were building the XLR, and 2006 to 2009 when they were building the V trims, they only made about 16,000 of these cars in total, with about 2,200 of them being the V trim versions. So the XLR is already a pretty rare car, but you'd be especially hard-pressed to find a V trim version at car shows or auctions. You just don't really see a whole lot of them. So it's always fun to go out and have people look at the car and ask questions about it. People are always surprised about the model year of the vehicle. They might think it's brand new. They're always surprised to find out that it has a hardtop convertible or that it was built along the Corvettes on the assembly line in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And then my second like about the XLR, and this is one that's really grown a lot over the time since I've owned it, is that it is a hardtop convertible. This is one of my favorite things because whether the top is up or down, the car is going to look great, especially this vehicle. But I really like hardtops, especially because it just looks better than a soft top. Half the time when soft tops are up, they just look really cheap and thin, and it does not look luxurious. But a hardtop, it may not even look like a convertible, and it just looks way better and like a normal vehicle. Also in the interior, it sounds completely quiet in there. It does not sound very rattly like a soft top might, or you wouldn't hear as much wind noise. So it's just a much more better luxurious experience with the hardtop. Next, we are back inside of the XLR-V to talk about the third thing that I like about this car, and that is its power. This keeps going. This car came with a supercharged Northstar V8 engine. It makes about 446 horsepower and 414 pound-feet of torque. No, it's not insane amount of power like you'd get in a Corvette or an LS engine even for the time. And actually, it's probably just about as much power as you'd ever need. The reason why that is because it's not so much power that it's going to completely just blow your face off. But it's still enough power you can still have plenty of fun, but it won't try and kill you in the process. And it can still go in 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, which is certainly respectable, but I'm really pleased with the amount of power that this vehicle has, and it still feels very fast and is more than what most people would ever need. Then the next thing on my list of the likes for the XLR-V is how this car drives. What's really cool and one of my favorite things about the XLR is that it can be very comfortable and very sporty when you want it to. The suspension does tighten up a bit when you go into performance mode and move the shifter over to the left. It just really feels like a true sports car, not insanely sporty like a Z06 or something like that. The experience is still comfortable and bearable, but it's still a difference that you can tell and you feel confident when driving sporty. But when you're done and you want to relax, calm down, turn everything off, let the car just go along, and it actually is a very, very comfortable ride for a sports car. It's even more comfortable than many of the Corvettes I've been in. For example, a C7 Corvette is just very uncomfortable to me, even in comfort settings. Just a very stiff ride. The seats are not very soft at all. But this car is very different from that. You can actually truly relax in this car. It's almost like a grand tourer. You can take it on long trips, but I just love how this car does both of these things extremely well. Next, I will talk about my fifth and final like about the XLR-V, and that is the exterior looks of this car. It looks absolutely stunning to me. It looks like a brand new vehicle in so many ways with the sharp creases. It does not look aged at all. Occasionally I will see Mercedes-Benz SLs or Jaguars from this time period, and they just do not look nearly as modern as this car. It looks like a stealth fighter going down the road. Possibly even my favorite thing about this car. It's really the reason why I fell in love with it in the first place. And I think that this is the best looking Cadillac in the last 20 years or so, especially with it being a coupe. Cadillac has always designed really nice looking coupes in my opinion, so it's nice to be able to own what I think is the nicest looking Cadillac in the modern era. So that is my 1 year ownership update with my 2006 Cadillac XLR-V. And just to round out the dislikes, some of these things are really not major issues with the car. However, I do just find the interior to be just a little bit more cheap than it should be. And I wish that this had maybe a little bit more engine noise and supercharger noise. And I think it's missing a lot of technology that really was available at the time and should have been added to this car, but wasn't, especially for it being at the top of Cadillac's model line at the time. However, I do believe that the likes greatly outweigh the dislikes in my opinion. I absolutely love the way that this car drives, how comfortable it is, and how sporty it is at the same time. With the hardtop convertible, it's just such an interesting and fun experience. And I also just love the way that this car looks. It's absolutely gorgeous, and there just isn't anything else like it on the road. So I hope that this video is at least helpful for those who are maybe interested in owning one of these cars. Please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and to come back again soon for more videos.